ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 1 of the series What If Madara Uchiha Reborn as Izuku. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Third-person POV. Kaguya Otsutsuki had just been sealed away by Naruto and Sasuke. Madara had fallen from Kaguya's body, having been used as a vessel for her. He now lay beside his old friend and rival, Hashirama Senju. He lay on the ground and stared at the night sky. Hashirama, Madara, it was fun fighting you again. Sorry I wasn't in my prime. Madara, it was fun fighting you again, Hashirama, but I need some peace and quiet before I die. I will take your soul into my body. Hopefully we'll see each other in the afterlife, where we can fight again. Madara reached his hand over to Hashirama and absorbed the remaining part of his soul into his own. Laying there by himself, Madara felt the world start to darken around him. He closed his eyes and, with one final shudder, died. Instead of heading to the afterlife, Madara awoke in the body of a child, the bright lights of a hospital blinding him. Doctor, it's a boy. What will you name him? Inko, Izuku Midoriya. Time skip for year. A young Izuku was seen hanging out with his childhood friends, Bakugo and Kirishima. Madara had decided to seal his memories until he was 10. Izuku, Kirishima, and Bakugo were talking about their new quirks. Izuku had already told them his quirk. In fact, he called the two the second he was allowed. Bakugo, my quirk allows me to set off explosions from my hands. Izuku, whoa, that's really cool, Kakin. Kirishima, my quirk isn't much. I can just harden my skin. Izuku gasped at this. Izuku, Kiribro, your quirk is amazing. With us three together, we have Kakin the spear, you as the shield, and me as the equipment and medics valet. Bakugo, that reminds me, Deku, what quirk did Todoroki get? Izuku, I'm not sure. We'll have to ask him at the next full family gathering. Bakugo, yeah, I guess. Time skip, 6 year. Izuku had just received all of Madara Uchiha's memories. He could now use his Sharingan, as well as a few basic jutsus. He could use Fire Style, Fireball, Transformation, Shadow Clone, and the Sharingan Genjutsu. He walked out of his room and ran into his mother. Inko, hello Izuku. Madara, hello Mom. Inko, what's wrong? You seem different? Madara, I got the memories from my previous life. Inko, oh? Madara, I wasn't the kindest person back then, but I've changed, thanks to you and my friends. Inko, that's wonderful. Madara, I also gained a few new abilities. Madara activates his Sharingan to show his mother. Inko was surprised at the sight of the eyes. Inko, do those cancel quirks like Uncle Aizawa? Izuku, not really. Izuku then explains to his mother how the Sharingan and chakra work. He then dragged her out to the backyard to show her his new jutsu. Izuku claps his hands together, forming a few hand signs, before holding one hand near his mouth. Madara, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. 041 to 102. Imagine Sasuke is young Madara. Inko, whoa, you can make fireballs? Madara, yes, among other jutsus that I am too weak to perform right now. Inko, they get stronger? Madara, and bigger. After returning inside, Inko and Madara ate breakfast before heading out to go meet with their friends. Madara, Kakin, Kiribro, Tadumint, Todoroki. Why? Why is that my nickname? Madara, alright, cousin. Bakugo, you said you had something to show us, Deku? Madara perked up at his old nickname. Madara, I have a request, Kakin, and all of you. Could you call me Madara now? Kirishima, Todoroki, and Bakugo. Why? Madara proceeded to explain what he told to his mother earlier. All of them were shocked to hear that Izuku was actually a reincarnated shinobi who still had access to chakra and all of his previous jutsus. Madara, let me show you some. Bakugo, cool. Let's see if you can beat me yet. Madara, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Madara plus clones, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki. You can breathe fire now? Madara activated his Sharingan and looked at them, while his clone poofed out of existence. Kirishima. Whoa. Your eyes. Madara. This is the Sharingan. It gives me greater vision, the ability to see what someone will do in 1 second, the ability to see the chakra in people, and the ability to afflict Jinjutsu on anyone who looks into my eyes. The three looked confused by what Madara had said. Madara's eyes widened and he gasped. Madara. Oh right. A Jinjutsu is basically a hyper-realistic illusion. The three looked like they understood now. The kids then did some light sparring, before playing and having fun for the rest of the day. Time skip, 7 years. What Madara looks like. This was their last day at Aldera High. Madara was excited, but he hid it well. Teacher, today we will be talking about your life path. But why bother? You all want to be heroes. The teacher threw the lists into the air, and everyone started using their quirks. Bakugo, don't lump us in with the rest of these extras, teach. These guys would be lucky to end up as a sidekick to a busted D-lister. Bakugo was referring to him and Madara. Student 1. Izuku? But his quirk is weak. Student 2. Yeah, he can only store stuff in a portal. Student 3. So pathetic. Student 4. Must be a disgrace to his mother. Madara snapped at that last comment. He kept a calm exterior as he walked up to the student, but he was emitting a malicious aura. Madara activated his Sharingan. Madara, want to say that to my face? Huh. Bakugo started walking over to Madara to calm him down, but he did it slowly. He wanted to enjoy the show. The student looked into his eyes. That was a mistake. Madara, your greatest fear. The kid screamed. He ran away from anyone. He had a massive fear of spiders. Now everyone was a spider in his eyes. Madara laughed for a bit, before releasing the Jinjutsu. Madara, insult my mother again, and I won't be so merciful. If you haven't noticed by now, storing things isn't the full extent of my quirk. It's just a small aspect of it. The rest of the day was uneventful. Madara had decided to walk a different way home. He needed some alone time. This is when he bumped into a girl. She looked afraid. That's when 3 thugs showed up. Third-person POV. Thug 1. Oi. We had eyes on her first. Madara, F off. Thug 2. You wanna go? Madara stared at the 3 thugs. He activated his Sharingan and knocked them all down in 3 seconds. Madara, weakness disgusts me. Madara then kicked each of them in the head, one after the other, knocking them out. He deactivated his Sharingan and turned to the girl. Madara, are you okay? Yayarozu, why yeah. That was so cool. Thanks for helping me? Madara, Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Madara, miss? Yayarozu, Momo Yayarozu. Madara, oh, Yayarozu. I recognize that name. Yayarozu, why you do? Madara, yeah. Before any more could be said, a black car pulled up and a butler walked out. Madara looked at Momo. She sighed and walked over to the butler. Madara couldn't hear what the two were talking about, but there was lots of pointing in his direction. Momo walked back over. Yayarozu, Madara, my father would like to personally thank you for saving me. Madara, and he wants to see me in person? Yayarozu, yes. Madara sighed before walking to the car. Madara, well, I guess it's time to meet the pretty girl's father. This made Momo blush. Madara sat in the back of the car. Momo sat next to him as there were 2 butlers in the front. Madara started talking to Momo about what she wanted to do in the future. They learned that they both were going to UA. They both liked reading and learning new things. Soon they arrived at the Yayarosa mansion. Madara exited the car first and held the door open for Momo. They both then walked over to her father, who was standing outside the front of his house. His name was Dai Yayarozu. His wife was sitting on a chair nearby. Her name was Awa Yayarozu. Dai walked over to Madara. Madara, hello Dai. Nice to finally meet you in person. Dai, nice to meet you. Thanks for saving my daughter? Madara, Izuku Midoriya. Dai, well Mr. Midoriya, I assume you know why you're here? Madara, because most people ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, or some kind of compensation seeing how rich you are. Dai, yes. So? Madara, no thanks. Aoi perked up at this. Someone didn't want compensation for saving her daughter. Dai, wait, serious? Madara, I want to make a name for myself, without help from others, and we're too young to think of marriage, so that's off the table. Money isn't a problem. Yet? Dai. Yet? Madara winced. Momo and Dai noticed this. Madara, my mother got fired from her job. We have enough for about 1 more year. She won't accept money from family members. I'm not asking for help yet. Maybe if I could get your phone numbers? Momo seems like a kind person, so I want to be friends and meet up with her again. And your phone number if we end up needing financial help later down the line. Dai, that sounds good to me. Dai grabbed paper and a pen and wrote his contact details on the paper. He gave the paper to Momo for her to write on it. She wrote her details on it. She then handed the paper to Madara. Her hand brushed against his, making her blush. Madara, thanks again. See you around, pretty girl. Madara then jumped away, speeding through the forest, jumping from tree branch to tree branch. He placed chakra in his feet, allowing him to stick to the trees. Dai watched as Momo was blushing at what Madara had said. Dai, seems like you have found someone who you like. Momo stuttered, saying that it wasn't like that. Little did she know, the two would be spending every day for the next 6 months together. Time skip, next day Saturday. Momo had received a message from Madara. It told her to meet him outside the gate of her family mansion. She walked out and was shocked by what Madara was wearing. He was wearing his war outfit. He had managed to get it made, albeit with a weaker material. He was planning to make a new one for Yue. Momo and Madara walked into the forest near her house. As they were walking, Madara decided to ask Momo something. Madara, would you like to meet my other friends? Momo, yes, that sounds like a great idea. Madara, let me call them up and see if they can get here. Madara called them and informed them of their location. Madara and Momo stopped in a clearing that was full of training dummies, weights, and gear. Madara and Momo sat on the chairs that were left there under a gazebo that was to the side. Madara's phone started buzzing multiple times. He checked the messages. His friends bet on who would get there first. Madara and Momo had been talking about how their quirks worked. Madara told her how his storage ability worked, and not his Uchiha abilities. That's when they heard explosions and swearing. Madara sighed. Madara, seems like Kaken got here first. Bakugo was flying down towards the clearing. He used his explosions to slow down. Bakugo noticed the new girl. Bakugo, ooh, who's this? Madara, a new friend I made. I saved her from a few thugs the other day. Bakugo, a few? Madara, 3. Bakugo, only 3? Momo looked at the two, confused. Todoroki and Kirishima arrived. They looked at Madara and Bakugo talking and tried to hold back laughter at seeing Momo's reaction to what the two were saying. Bakugo, well, I could take down an entire gang. Madara, actually, I'm currently working on doing that right now. Bakugo, wait, seriously? Madara, yup. Anyway, Todoroki, Kirishima, meet Momo Yayarozu. Yayarozu, meet Shoto Todoroki and Ijiro Kirishima. Todoroki, yo. Kirishima, hello? Nice to meet you. Bakugo, hurry up, I want to fight someone. Madara sighed and signaled them off to go and spar. Madara, want to join and train some fighting skills? Momo nodded. Madara, great. Now, treat us all as enemies. This is a free-for-all. Hearing that, Madara's friends turned and stared at him. All they saw was the red of his sharing gun. The three decided to take him seriously and fight him 3-on-1. Madara grinned at this. Madara, you 3 may be able to beat me like that. Todoroki shot ice at Madara. Madara easily melted it with his fireball. Momo was shocked. Madara had only told her about storage, his quirk, but this did not look like he had opened a portal to release his fire. Madara ducked under an explosion from Bakugo and barely weaved around a hardened punch from Kirishima. Madara grabbed Bakugo's wrist and slammed him into the ground, then choke slammed Kirishima into the ground. Madara decided that the time for games was over. Madara opened a portal, pulling out his gunbai and Kama. He smacked Bakugo in the face with the flat of the gunbai. He held the flat side up to Todoroki, who had thrown his fire at him. Madara Uchiha Reflection. Todoroki's fire got reflected back at him. He barely got an ice shield up in time. Madara, let's try a new one. Bakugo. Huh? Madara, Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. The jutsu was used to distract Bakugo. It worked. While Bakugo tried to dodge the flames, Madara had managed to pin him down with a shadow clone. A clone had also pinned down Kirishima and Todoroki. Madara was then hit in the chest with a beanbag round from a shotgun, cracking his armor. Madara, good idea. Wait for the others to weaken me before attacking and getting hit by my with style. Momo. What? Madara, with style, 4-pillar prison jutsu. Momo had been trapped in Madara's jutsu. He released her from the prison. He then released his shadow clone jutsu, allowing his other friends to stand up. They all laughed, talked, and trained for a few more hours before returning to their respective homes. On his way home, Madara got a call from his undercover agent. Madara, hello. What's happened? There's a child. Madara. What? A child. Madara. Repeat that one more time, please. Overhaul is torturing and experimenting on a child. Madara. Get her and start the wipeout. I'm on my way. Third-person POV. 10 months after Chapter 1. The group was sitting in their training area. Today was a more relaxed day as it was raining. Madara walked out into the rain, avoiding the question. He looked up at the sky. Madara, Water Style, Water Dragon Missile. Madara shot a water dragon into the sky. He watched it fly. Madara returned to the gazebo. He talked to the others for a few minutes before they all returned home. Madara walked with Momo to her house. Once they arrived, Momo hugged Madara. He hugged her back. She pulled him down a bit and embraced his cheek. She turned and walked into her estate, blushing, only to see that her father was watching. This made her blush even more. Madara walked home with a small blush on his cheeks. Once he entered his house, he saw his mother, still trying to find a job. Madara sneaked by her and grabbed all of the bills for the next 3 years and paid them all off. He had borrowed some money from All Might and the Yaya family to be able to pay for the bills. Tomorrow was the UA entrance exam. He was excited. Inko. Izuku, is that you? Madara. Yes. Inko. Huh? I just got a notification from the mortgage people. It's been paid off? Madara. Not only that, I've paid all the bills, with 3 years in advance. Inko. What? How? Madara. I borrowed some money from Uncle Might and from the Yayarozu family. Inko. How did you get Toshi to do that? Madara. He owed me one. After his fight against All for One, remember? Inko. Oh, yeah. Flashback. Doctor. Quickly. He's missing a lung in his stomach. Get him to the ER. Madara walked into the ER with a surgeon outfit on. Head surgeon. Who are you? Madara. He's my uncle. I have an ability that can regrow internal organs. Head surgeon. Normally, I would call security to get you out, but seeing as you could well save his life, I'll allow you in. Madara walked up to Toshinori's weak and skinny form. He looked so frail. Madara placed his hands over the wound. Madara. Healing Jutsu. Advanced Regrowth. Madara healed the wound. Toshinori woke up near the end of the healing. Toshinori. Izuku, please leave a scar there. I want it as a memory, a sign that I'm not immortal. Madara. All right. 3 weeks later, All Might was back at full health and officially allowed to return to hero work. He was forced to rest for 3 weeks. It would seem suspicious if the #1 hero made an instant recovery from an injury. Flashback end. Madara walked over and hugged his mother. Madara, don't worry, you can now find a job without worrying about bills for a while. Inko started crying in his embrace. Inko. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, son. Madara. It was my pleasure, Mom. After Inko had calmed down, Madara walked up to his room. His phone started ringing. Seeing that it was his informant, he picked it up and put it to his ear. Madara. Hello, how's the child going? Good. She's enjoying her freedom. Madara, that's good. Now, the reason for this call. I've been accepted as a teacher at UA. I'll be a teaching assistant for Aizawa. Madara, that's excellent. Sorry it took so long. It took a while for me to convince Nizu to accept someone thought to be a villain. There was a lot of paperwork. No problem, boss. Strong arm out. Click. Madara took the phone away from his ear. He walked over to his bed. He opened his storage and checked on his weapons supply. Madara, 40 paper bombs, 30 paper bomb kunai, gunbai and kama, 150 shuriken, 30 regular kunai, and my 3 swords. Nice. I'm prepared. Madara's kama and swords. Madara went to sleep and dreamed of fighting Hashirama. Oh, how he wished he could find someone as strong as him in this world. Then he thought of something that confused him. Why would Aizawa need a teaching assistant? He could easily handle a class of 20. That's a fact. Maybe Nizu had something devious planned. Nizu's office, UA. Nizu. Ahahaha. That's right, young Midoriya. You will love my plan. Maybe it'll give you a challenge. Sunday. Madara woke to the sound of his alarm. He turned off his alarm and hurriedly got ready. He decided to wear something semi-casual. He put on a simple shirt and pants. He tied his hair back, leaving 2 bangs framing his face. He put on his gloves and walked out of his room, minus the cigarette. Madara entered the kitchen and grabbed some food. After saying goodbye to his mother, Madara left the house to go to UA. On the way, he met up with Momo. Madara, so, are you excited for today? Momo, yes. I'm taking the recommendation exam, so I won't see you until the first day. Madara, well, that's not a problem. I'll see you then. We walked through the gates of UA. Momo went to the right and I went to the left to take a written test. The test was easy. I finished the test and handed it to the examiner. The examiner had an unusual look, but I was used to unusual-looking people. There were a lot in this world. I walked into an amphitheater. There was a man with sunglasses and a yellow mohawk who was preparing some notes. It seemed like he was going to be their announcer for today. Everyone else started filing in. Bakugo and Kirishima were looking for me. I waved to them. Madara, Kaken, Kiriburo. Over here. They finally noticed me and walked over. We all read through the manual. I told them that there might be a secret scoring part to the test. They would probably have a rescue point system, so I told them to save anyone that needs help. And you. Stop talking. If you think that this is a joke, then leave. Madara was beyond pissed. He was whispering, and no one around him had said that he was being too loud or distracting. He stood up and stared at the boy, activating his sharing gun. Madara. Well, if I was talking too loudly, any of these people around me would have told me to be quiet, not you sitting all the way over there. We were discussing what to do if that 4th robot appears. It's only a distraction that's worth 0 points, so there's no need to engage with it. Sorry. Madara, pathetic. Madara sat back down and continued to whisper to his friends about their plans. Soon they were all let out of the area and were placed in different buses. Madara was on one with a bunch of people he didn't know. One of them had orange hair and struck up a conversation with him. He learned that her name was Itsuka Kendo. Madara introduced himself as Izuku Midoriya. Kendo, I heard your friends call you Madara. Is that a nickname? Madara? Oh, that's because Madara was my name in a previous life. I've regained all of the abilities and memories of my previous life, so it may look like I have multiple quirks. Kendo, that's so cool. The bus stopped. Madara stood up and looked back at Kendo. Madara, you can call me Madara if you like. Besides, I have another friend whose name is Kendo. He calls me boss though. Kendo, alright, I'll call you Madara then. Madara and Kendo were standing outside the huge gates leading to a mock city. Madara pulled out his gunbai and detached the chain that connected it to his kama. He placed his gunbai on his back and pulled out his war katana and placed it on his waist. Madara summoned 3 wood clones as the doors opened. He immediately ran through the gate with his clones. By the time that the announcer told the people that heroes don't wait for go, Madara had already destroyed 20 points worth of robots. Madara had gotten over 100 points in robot kills and was now waiting on the top of a building. Madara sensed the laughter of a crazy chimera as the floor started to shake. Earlier, in the control room, Nizu, look at that. He's easily destroying the robots. Everyone was shocked at the student. Izuku Midoriya, moniker, Madara had already gotten over 100 points. Suddenly, the door burst open and the new teacher ran in. Sorry I'm late, Nizu, but Eri wanted to come with me and she wouldn't take no for an answer. The man who had walked in was a very muscular man, almost on par with the size of All Might. He had a bird mask on and was carrying a small child who had red eyes and whitish-blue hair. Nizu, well, why would she want to come and see the current heroes in training? Eri, there he is. Why is he doing nothing? Everyone in the room was shocked to hear that Eri knew Madara. Rappa, I think he has already got enough points to pass. He's just waiting for a challenge now. Nizu, oh, so that's what he is doing. Well, I guess it's time. Nizu slammed his fist down on a big red button. Labeled, Release the Kraken. Nizu, ha 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 ha. Everyone was scared of Nizu's laughter. Everyone other than Eri, who had joined in on his crazy laughter. Rappa looked at Madara, who was getting up and staring at the zero-pointer, and sent him a silent message. Show us something cool. Mock City. Madara ran down the side of the building. He had channeled some chakra into his feet, allowing him to stick to the wall. Once Madara reached the ground, he heard Kendo crying out for help. He ran to where she was. He found her stuck under some rubble. Madara sent some wood clones to help her out while he dealt with the zero-pointer. Madara looked up at the towering hunk of green metal and sighed. Madara, well, it is at least 50 meters tall. Shorter than my perfect Susanoo. But I can't access perfect Susanoo, as this body hasn't unlocked Mangekyo Sharingan yet. Madara decided that he would melt the robot with a new jutsu of his. He jumped up into the air while making hand signs. He was ready to release the jutsu at about halfway up the zero-pointer. So that's what he did. Madara, fire style, majestic destroyer flame. The zero-pointer was melted and Madara landed safely on the ground. He turned around and walked back to the entrance to check on Kendo. Once he was sure that she was all right, Madara walked to the control room. Madara was immediately hugged by Eri. Madara, oof. Hello, Eri. It's good to see you. Eri, it's good to see you too, Uncle Madara. All of the teachers looked at Madara with a confused look. Madara just waved them off. Madara, Rappa can explain the whole thing after I go. I have a friend who's doing the recommendation exams that I have to meet with. Eri let go of Madara and returned to sitting on Rappa's shoulders. Aizawa and All Might walked over to greet their nephew. Madara, Uncle Might. Uncle Aizawa, good to see you. Aizawa, good to see you, nephew. All Might, my boy. It's good to see you again. How is your mother doing? Madara, much better now that she doesn't have to worry about bills. All Might, that's great to hear. Madara, have you found a person for the thing yet? All Might, not yet, but I will find someone. Madara, well, that's okay. You'll find someone in this school who's worthy. But I must take my leave now. The recommendation exams are almost done. See you all at school tomorrow. Madara walked away to go to the recommendation exam area. He walked around a corner and ran into the person he was looking for. Momo almost ran straight into Madara, if not for him still having his Sharingan active. Madara was practicing keeping his Sharingan active 24/7. Madara grabbed Momo as she slipped, trying to stop herself from running into Madara. Madara and Momo started talking to each other on the walk home. Madara dropped Momo off at her house and continued on. As he was walking back home, Madara felt his head being pat. He looked around but no one was there. He squinted at the sky, before turning back around and walking off. Gil, someone broke the fourth wall of my story. How? The readings say that the person who broke it was Chaotic Gremling. Gil, I swear. I need to call my repairman. Control room, UA. Nizu. So, now that Madara is gone, care to explain how you two know each other, and why Eri calls him uncle? Rappa. It started 10 months ago. Kendo Rappa POV. I had managed to get into Eri's room and convince her that I was friendly. Once I had told her that I was getting her out, she latched onto me and thanked me. I started to run, knowing that my fake boss would be mad at me for stealing his package that he had gotten a few days ago. My real boss would probably level the whole base. Overhaul. Rappa. Where are you going with that cursed child? Rappa. Outside. Before. Madara. Seichai Hasaikai. Your time is over. Come out and surrender. Rappa. Him. A wood clone walked up to us. I passed Eri to Madara's wood clone, before turning back to Overhaul. Rappa. You may be strong with your quirk, but I have a few tricks up my sleeve. Overhaul. Try me. Rappa. Let's do this. Strong arm barrage. I started rapidly punching Overhaul in an effort to beat him. This didn't work. I remembered a technique that Madara had taught me. Now was the time to use it. Rappa. 8 gates. First gate. Gate of opening. I sent Overhaul into the sky with an uppercut, before wrapping him in chains, grabbing him into a spinning suplex. I looked as Overhaul was laying there stunned. Madara would clone. Rappa. Get out. The main body is going to glass the place. Rappa. Oh. I'm out of here. I ran to the entrance of the base. I met up with Madara. Madara passed Eri back to me. Madara. She likes you. Rappa. Ah. Such a cutie. Happy Rappa. Madara. Well, it's time to try a new ability of mine. Rappa. What are you doing? Madara looked at me and I was shocked. His eyes had changed from their normal black/red to fully purple. Overhaul emerged from the base and immediately threw spikes at us. Madara. Almighty push. An invisible force broke through Overhaul's spikes. Madara. Goodbye, Overhaul. You would have been fine if you didn't bring a child into this. Overhaul. She is the cure to all quirks. Madara. Planetary devastation. Ignore the subtitles. The giant meteor crashed into the base of the Shai Hasaikai. We turned around and walked away. I was cradling Eri in my arms. Madara. I can talk with Nizu and try and get you into UA as a teacher. Rappa. That sounds like a great idea. After years of being an underground fighter, I feel like teaching would be a nice way to spend a majority of my life. We walked away from the base and split off. Madara went to his house, and I went to one that I had recently bought. Present day, control room, UA. Rappa. And that's how Madara saved Eri. Madara woke up. He looked around his bare room. He was confused, until he remembered that UA was a boarding school. He looked around for today's outfit. He saw something simple. A black turtleneck, black pants, and a beige overcoat draped over his shoulders. He decided to leave his hair down today. Madara opened a portal and threw his bags into his pocket dimension. He walked out into the kitchen and saw his mother also getting ready. Madara, did you get a job? Inko. Yeah. Madara, that's excellent. Inko leaves as she needs to get to work. Madara grabs some food and runs to UA. Madara jumps from building to building and gets to UA in record time. He looks at the map and finds where Class 1A was. Madara finds himself in front of the overly massive door. His map says that this is Class 1A, but the sign just says Heroics Course. Madara shrugs and opens the door. He looks at the size of the classroom and groans. There are 40 desks. It seems that Niza decided that one larger heroics class instead of 2 was the choice for this year. Madara walked over to a window and sat at the desk. A few minutes later, Momo walked in. She took the desk in front of Madara. Kirishima and Bakugo walked in next. Kirishima sat behind Izuku and Bakugo sat at the desk on Izuku's right. Todoroki sat at the desk next to Kirishima. Bakugo put his feet up on the desk. He got smacked on the back of his head. He looked at Madara with anger, but removed his feet from the desk. Madara noticed some people from the entrance exam. He waved at Kendo. She waved back. Izuku watched the chaos that was the heroics class. Madara saw the kid with the speed quirk from the entrance exam. The kid tried to berate him for his choice in outfit, saying something along the lines of it not being the proper uniform and disrespecting the previous heroes who attended this school. Madara just opened the school guide to page 38 and pointed at the sentence, uniform recommended, but not necessary unless the class is on live TV i.e. sports festival. The boy apologized. Madara waved him off as he noticed the door open. Madara watched Aizawa slide in. Aizawa left the sleeping bag and stood at the front table. After about 8 seconds, the class finally noticed him. Aizawa, it took you 8 seconds to notice me. You aren't giving me a good impression of you as a class. Get changed into these. You have 10 minutes to meet me on the field. Aizawa threw a box of training clothes onto the table and walked out. I immediately stood up and walked out with a uniform. The class followed after me. Once out on the field, Madara looked at Aizawa for what to do. Aizawa, Madara, seeing as you got the highest score in the entrance exam, why don't you come and demonstrate this ball throw? Madara, yes sir. Aizawa, what was your highest throw in middle school? Madara, about 50 meters before I started training. Aizawa, now, do it with your quirk. Madara opened a portal and pulled out his gunbai. He threw the ball up high. As the ball was about to hit the fan, Madara activated his Uchiha reflection. The ball's kinetic energy was absorbed, then multiplied by the force that he struck the ball with. Madara, Uchiha reflection. Impact. The ball flew into the distance and the class gasped at the power. Madara turned and looked at the class, before seeing 2 people walking over. Madara smiled warmly at Eri and Rappa. His smile changed to a look of surprise when he saw Eri carrying a raccoon. Madara, what have you got there, niece? There was an uproar in the class, before they all cowered at Madara's glare. Madara, don't scare the child. Eri, I got a pet. Madara smiled and sat down next to Eri. Madara looked at the raccoon and saw intelligence behind its eyes. Too much intelligence for a normal raccoon. He squinted at it, before looking at Eri again. Madara, what's her name? Eri, B. Madara smiled and patted her on the head, before turning to his sworn brother and second teacher of this chaotic class, Kendo Rappa. Madara, Rappa, glad to see you're doing well. Rappa, I could say the same to you. The class looked shocked at the two's interaction. Madara, allow me to introduce my sworn brother, Kendo Rappa, as the second teacher of this massive class. The class gasped at this. Madara shook his head in disdain at the class's reaction. Madara, say hello to him, goddammit. Class, good morning, Rappa-sensei. Rappa laughed at his brother's antics. He waved at them, before pointing at Aizawa. The aptitude test continued and Madara aced everything. He got top score. He didn't even need to use any of his abilities, but he decided to show off because Eri was there. Madara grinned at the shocked class. He looked at Eri and smiled at her. Aizawa, that's it for now. Everyone returned to class. There is a syllabus for everyone on the front desk. Make sure to read it. You will get your first heroics class last period today. The class cheered and left. Madara stopped as he felt a presence watching him. Madara saw a blue-haired man in need of moisturizer. He had red eyes that seemed to pierce Madara's soul. Madara glared back at him with his Sharingan active. He had to hold back a laugh as the man got hit with a genjutsu and fell off of the tree he was using to spy. That helped lighten the mood, but Madara still felt as if something was going to go very wrong, very soon. Third-person POV. Madara was trying to sleep with his head on the desk. This combined class was woo much for him sometimes. They were loud. Some were obnoxious. Madara could handle 1 Bakugo, not 2. Monoma. Nito Monoma. An annoying class member who has a superiority complex that almost matched Bakugo's old one. Madara looked up at the sound of his uncle's voice. All Might, I am here. Entering the room like a normal person. Madara looked up at the unusual pose that All Might was in. Madara shook his head. All Might, today we will be doing heroics training. Madara, Uncle Might, why are you like this? All Might, young Madara, good to see you again. The class was shocked. They were speechless. All Might was Madara's uncle. Madara and All Might laughed heartily at the class's reaction to the news. All Might, you will all be coming with me to do heroics training. Meet me at Ground Gamma with your hero costumes. All Might ran off after that, and Aizawa opened the 40 cases on the wall. Madara walked over to his and grabbed it before heading off to the change rooms. Ground Gamma. All Might, what wonderful hero costumes you all have. Everyone looked at each other's costumes. Momo's new costume carrot. Madara was the last one out. He had a modified version of his original outfit. Instead of red armor, he had gone with all black. Ignore the cracks. While All Might explained the rules, Madara had turned around to greet Eri. He smiled when he saw Eri happily playing with her raccoon as Rappa was walking next to her, guiding her to where the class was. All Might, Madara and Itsuka Kendo are on the hero team, and the villain team is Momo Yaoyorozu and Kyuka Jiro. Madara, Momo, Jiro, and Kendo walk to the training building. Madara sits down while Kendo states her plan to him. Madara nods, but changes one aspect. He will go first. She nods as All Might calls the heroes to enter the building. Madara walks in quietly. Kendo follows behind him. Madara notices the traps with ease and disables all of them. Madara notices something. Madara, Kendo, run to the 5th floor. They're both down here. Kendo runs off and Madara watches Jiro's earphone jacks retract from the ground. Jiro walks out and notices Madara was still standing there with a grin on his face. Madara POV. Jiro looks into my eyes and freezes. She gets pulled back around the corner and Momo frees her from the Genjutsu. I smile again as the two walk around the corner and are staring at my feet. It's a good idea to keep focus off of my eyes. I take a step forward and activate Rinnegan without them noticing. Madara, Bansho Tinin Universal Pole. I pull Jiro and grab her by the throat. Madara, good idea, but you forgot to think if I may have gained a new ability. Momo looks up and sees that my eyes were different. She takes a step forward. I hold Jiro in between me and Momo. Madara, Shinra Tensei Almighty Push. I let go of Jiro, and she flies into Momo. Momo managed to catch her and I smiled. I return my eyes to Sharingan. I dodge a strike from Momo and grab her wrist before pinning her to the ground. Momo managed to push me off her and mount me, pinning me to the ground and creating shackles attached to heavy weights. Jiro runs upstairs to try and catch Kendo. Madara, that was a good plan. But you forgot one thing. Momo looks at me, confused. My eyes turn to the Rinnegan again. Madara, Azura Path, Azura Attack. An arm cannon forms on each of my shoulders and points at Momo. Momo gets launched back by the attack. I snap the chains and stand up. I see her with a shield in hand. Momo, you seem to be slower. I didn't notice it before, but I can see it now. I look at the ceiling and count down. Madara, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All Might, hero team wins. Madara, I knew she could do it. I open a nearby window. Madara, see if you can guess why I am so slow. I jump out of the window and hit the ground. The ground cracks and dust flies up in 2 pillars. Momo, you have weights on? Madara nods before waiting for everyone to exit the building. He walks back to the viewing room with the others. Once he arrives, Madara hears All Might talking about an MVP. Bakugo, I think Madara is the MVP. All Might nods. All Might, and why do you think that is, young Bakugo? Bakugo looks at Madara before listing his reasons. Bakugo, he distracted his opponents, which allowed his teammate to make it to the bomb. Madara deliberately got caught. Lose the battle but win the war. He stalled enough to allow Kendo to get to the bomb while evening the playing field for him to escape. Once he escaped, he would have been able to apprehend Momo, and Kendo would have been able to apprehend or delay Jiro. All Might, excellent, young Bakugo. Now, you and Kirishima on the hero team against Ida and Uraraka on the villain team. Third-person POV. Bakugo and Kirishima were waiting outside the room and planning. Bakugo, have you mastered chakra yet? Kirishima, no, I'm almost there. Have you? Bakugo opened his hands and Kirishima was surprised and slightly revolted at what he saw. Bakugo smiled and clenched his fist again. Observation room. Rappa, what does he mean? Madara smiles and chuckles gently. Momo leans into Madara after hearing his gentle laugh. Madara, he's finally done it. He mastered his chakra. Momo smiled and looked at her hands. She was happy that her friend had mastered his chakra, but she was sad that she hadn't mastered hers yet. Madara noticed her looking down. Madara, hey, you're learning faster than they did. You'll get it down in no time. Momo smiled at Madara's comment and looked back to the screen to see what would happen next. Bakugo POV. All Might had called for us to enter the building. I grabbed my scope from out of my pocket and placed it over my left eye. I tell Kirishima to run up the stairs to the left. I continue to run to the right and take a different set of stairs up. I run into the brown-haired girl, Uraraka. I smile and point my palms at her. She covers her mouth at seeing what is on those palms. It's mouths, one on each palm. I open my cloak and put my hands into the 2 bags that I have on my hips. Bakugo, you have no idea how hard it is to get this clay or these arms. Uraraka ran to me to try and stop me. I pull my hands out of the pockets and look at the model bats in my hands. I jump back and avoid Uraraka's hands. Bakugo, close. I throw the bats and do a hand sign. With a puff of smoke, the bats gain life and fly to Uraraka. Once they are close enough, I set them off. Bakugo, see one explosion. I smile at the sight of the explosions. Bakugo, it truly is an art. I notice that Uraraka is unconscious and run to where Kirishima should be. As I'm running to where Kirishima is, I put my hands into the bags to grab some more clay and I use the mouths and some chakra to make some spiders. I throw these and bring them to life with the same hand sign. I find Kirishima and watch as he grabs a kick from Ida and throws him over his shoulder. The spiders crawl onto Ida and I smile. Bakugo, nighty-night. See one explosion. The spiders explode and render him unconscious. Kirishima, did you go overboard? Bakugo, nah, I only use C1 on him. I walk up and place my hand on the bomb. All Might, Hero Team wins. I tell Kirishima to grab Ida while I go to grab Uraraka. We walk back while carrying them on our shoulders. Bakugo and Kirishima are both wearing Akatsuki cloaks. Madara has one but doesn't wear it often. Once the 2 enter the building, Madara and Momo walk over to the 2. Momo, why don't I get a cloak like that? Madara, I have one on the way. It should be about 2 days. Also, good match, guys. Kirishima, thanks. It would have been a bit easier if I had my puppets and I had mastered the jutsu. Madara nods at this. Madara, I have no idea how I was able to find those 3 and even restore them. Kirishima, they are strong though. Madara, yeah. Mother, father, and the 3rd Kazekage. 3rd-person POV. 2 days after the last chapter, Madara was sitting in the class. He was wearing an outfit he had worn before. He looked up at the sound of Aizawa's voice. Aizawa, let's get down to business. This next task will decide your future. Heroics class thought. Is it another quirk test? Aizawa, you all need to pick a class representative and a vice rep for Class 1A and for Class 1B. Heroics class. Oh good, just normal school stuff. Everyone started calling out, wanting to be chosen as class rep. Tenya, silence everyone please. The class representative's duty is to lead others. It's not something just anyone can do. You must first have the trust of every student in the classroom. Therefore, the most logical way to fill this position is democratically. We will hold an election to choose our leader. Hero class. Your hand was raised the highest out of all of us. Denki, is this really the best idea? Tsuyu, we've only known each other a few days. How do we know who we can trust? Ijiro, besides, everyone will just vote for themselves. Tenya, most people will, but that means whoever does receive multiple votes must truly be the most suitable person for the job. It's the best way, right, sir? Aizawa, do what you want, just decide before my nap's over. Aizawa zipped up his bright yellow sleeping bag and fell to the floor. Tenya, thank you for your trust. Voting results Class 1A. 1. Madara, 5. 2. Momo Yayarozu, 4. Voting results Class 1B. 1. Itsuka Kendo, 6. Nairenjiki Shota, 3. Madara nodded as he walked up to the front with the others. Madara stood up the front and spoke first. Madara, I will lead all of you to become the best heroes that this generation will ever see. Aizawa woke up and saw the 4 standing up at the front. Aizawa, good. Now, everyone go to lunch. The lunch bell went, and everyone walked out to the cafeteria. Madara was talking with his friends about what they would be doing this afternoon. Madara, probably rescue training. I heard that the USJ is big enough for more than 40 students. Azui, more than likely. Madara's current group consisted of Momo, Bakugo, Todoroki, Kirishima, and Azui. Todoroki, I managed to master that jutsu finally. Madara, that's excellent. Momo, I've almost got mine done. Momo opened her palm and her hand fluttered into pieces of paper. Madara smiled at her. Madara, excellent. Oh, Azui, do you want me to teach you some jutsus too? Tsu, call me Tsu, and yes. Madara nodded. Madara, you guys should keep your jutsus a secret until the sports festival. That would be fun. Everyone nodded. Suddenly a loud alarm rang out. Re-thawing. Madara looked up at the sound of the alarm. Loudspeaker. Warning, Level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate the building in an orderly fashion. And that didn't happen. Everyone rushed to the exit, believing that a villain broke in. Madara looked out the window and saw that it was just the press. He sighed as he walked over to the mob of people, having already told his group to stay there as he would sort this out. Madara released a large wave of his chakra. All of the people in the hallway froze at the feeling of immense power. They all looked at Madara. They stared into his glowing eyes. Madara, TCH pathetic, all of you. To think that the students of the most prestigious hero school are this. Weak. Random student 1. We aren't weak. Madara was enraged, and his Sharingan flashed brightly. Madara, then why are you all panicking? The number 1 hero is a teacher at this school. If you look out of the window, you will see that it's just the press who managed to break in. Madara turned around and walked away from the hall. He put his head on the table and sighed. He felt an arm wrap around him. Momo, you did a good job calming down the crowd. Madara picked his head up from the table and looked at Momo. He smiled and brushed her hair away from her eyes. The class bell rang and everyone returned to class. Time skip, last class of the day. Madara POV. Aizawa. We'll be heading off campus today. Hero class. What are we doing? Aizawa picked up a card and faced it towards us. Aizawa. Rescue training. All Might, me and another faculty member will be attending this outing. Ida. Sir. Will we be using our hero uniforms? Aizawa. Yes, we will be, although you may not be used to your uniforms yet, so they may drag you down. Now all of you get ready and meet me at the bus in 10 minutes. Aizawa walked out of the classroom. I grabbed my hero outfit and opened a storage portal with my quirk and grabbed 2 cloaks out. I would wear my cloak today, and the other one was for Momo. I looked at Todoroki and pointed at the portal. Madara, I have yours in here still. You want it? Shoto shrugged. Shoto, sure. Why not? I grabbed his out and threw it to him. We all left to go to the change rooms. I asked Tsu a question on the way. Madara, would you like me to get you a cloak as well? Tsu pondered for a bit. Tsu, I would like that, seeing as I am going to be learning chakra control from you. Madara nodded. Madara, send me your shirt size, and I will be able to get it to you in a week. Tsu nodded as she walked off to the girls' change room with Momo. Madara was talking with Itsuka on the way to the bus. Madara, so you would also like to learn chakra control and some jutsu? Itsuka, yes. It seems like fun. Madara, and would you like to join our group? Itsuka nodded and asked if she could get a cloak as well. Madara told her the same thing she told Tsu. Kendo had to walk over to her half of the class to direct them into the bus. Madara walked up to the bus. He took one look into the window and turned back to the class. Madara, this bus has an open seating plan. Enter the bus in an orderly fashion and everything should be fine. The bus ride was relatively uneventful. Everyone talked about their home life or how their training was going. Before they knew it, the bus arrived at the USJ. Aizawa, everyone, we're here. We all exited the bus. Some people's jaws dropped at the sight before them. I looked at the entrance and saw a pro hero that I recognized walking out. Hello Class 1A, and welcome to rescue training. Achiko, 13? I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm so excited that I get to meet you. 13. Nice to see a fan of mine. Aizawa, where's All Might? He was supposed to be here. Aizawa walked up to 13 and whispered something. 13. Oh dear. Well everyone, let's enter the building. We followed after 13 and entered the USJ. We looked around and saw all of the different zones that they had. There was a city zone, a water zone, a fire zone, and a forest zone. Momo, wow. This place is massive. Itsuka, right? I sensed something wrong. The lights in the USJ flickered and I saw a purple mist formed by the fountain. This mist formed into a portal. Hundreds of villains started to walk out of the portal. The most prominent was a man with sky-blue hair, dry skin and hands all over him. I turned to Izawa and saw him putting on his goggles. Izawa, 13. Stay here and protect the students. I'll go and take them out. Madara walked up next to Izawa and stared down at the villains with his arms crossed. Being this high up reminded him of the war he fought hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. Izawa, back up, I got this. Madara, technically, I have more experience than you, and I already have a provisional license thanks to Nizu, even though my chakra isn't a quirk. Izawa sighed. Izawa, can you keep up? I pulled the ankle of my pants up and took off the weights that were around each leg. I dropped them to the ground, which cracked. Madara, can you, uncle? I grinned at my uncle as we heard a gasp from the class. We then both jumped down the stairs in sync. I landed in front of the villains and ran at them. I looked at the blue-haired villain, Shigaraki. So this is him. This is Madara Uchiha. I was shocked that he knew me. I saw the purple guy reappear. I looked back up the stairs and saw that my classmates were gone. They must have been warped all over the USJ. Shigaraki, Kurogiri, bring out both of the Noma. Kurogiri opened a portal and a big black bird creature with an exposed brain walked out. Behind him was a normal-sized man. I saw who it was and I could feel all of the sins of my past crawling up my back. I cried when I saw him. Madara whisper, Hashirama. I felt Hashirama's soul moving around in my body. It felt like it was trying to tell me something. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my eyes. I fell down and covered my eyes. I opened my eyes and glared at Shigaraki. Madara, you will regret messing with that man's body. I ran at the Hashirama Nomu. I was reckless and got stabbed in the shoulder by a villain. I activate my Mangekyo Sharingan ability and rewound time. I run at Hashirama again. I grab the sword that the villain tried to stab me with and snap it. Once I reach Hashirama, I try something that Hashirama's soul told me to try. Madara, I refuse to fight you in this weakened state, Hashirama. Rinne rebirth. I expected my soul to fade as I resurrected Hashirama, but something strange happened. Instead of my soul being sacrificed, Hashirama's soul, which was intertwined with mine, was sacrificed. The corpse of Hashirama started to regenerate and age back to 18. Before I could do anything, I was punched in the back of the head by the bird Nomu and my head cracked against the pavement. I use my Mangekyo ability again and go back in time and dodge the punch of the Nomu. I only had one more use of my EMS Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan before it ran out. I activated my Susanoo in the ribcage form and use it to block the Nomu's attack. I then increase its size. My Susanoo grabs swords out and cuts the Nomu. It regenerates. I hear a voice from my right, a voice that makes me smile. Hashirama, Sage Art, Gracious Deity Gates. A set of hates that look like torii gates fall from the sky and land on the Nomu. Shigaraki and Kurogiri leave before they get attacked. I deactivate my Susanoo and look over at Hashirama. I smile to him. He has a confused look and looks to me. I explain everything to him. He smiles and nods at how I've changed. I see Kaken fly over on a clay bird with Kirishima. We all regrouped near Izawa, who was resting on the ground with a cut under his eye. I look up at the entrance as All Might enters the USJ. Madara, get 13 some medical attention. All Might nods and takes her outside gently. The rest of the teachers arrive soon and check on us. Hashirama, so, I'm in a body that's 18 years old and we are attending a hero school? Madara, yes, I can get you in with the assistance of Nizu. Hashirama nods. I introduce him to my crew. Madara, Hashirama, these are my friends. Momo, Bakugo, Todoroki, Itsuka, Kirishima, and Azui. Hashirama waves at them and they wave back. We all soon leave the USJ and return home. School was canceled for us until next week. Hashirama comes with me to visit my house and meet my mom. Everything was much better. I would soon be able to fight Hashirama at full power. Third-person POV. Madara walked out into the UA arena and smiled at the cheering crowd. He loved the cheering. He wished he had slept more last night. He was up all night trying to master his new jutsu. Hashirama placed his hand onto Madara's shoulder. Hashirama, You will do great. Madara. Easy for you to say, Hashirama. Crowds were never my thing. Hashirama laughed while Present Mike introduced the general and support courses. Soon, Midnight took the mic and said something that he didn't expect. Midnight. Would Madara please come forward and say a pledge to start us off? Madara walked up to the microphone and glared in the direction of the commentator's box. Madara, I'm glad that I was told about this beforehand so I could prepare a speech. He said this with heavy amounts of sarcasm. Aizawa, I knew I forgot something. Present Mike, your, microphone is still on. Aizawa. Oh sure. Madara laughed heartily at his teacher. Madara, that was good. Now, our life is short and temporary. We do not have much time in this world, but it is how we utilize and spend the time that is given to us that really matters. Be strong enough to be someone that even the demons fear. Plus Ultra. The crowd shouted with him before cheering and applauding. Madara walked back to his friends before Midnight explained what the first event would be. Midnight. The first challenge is an obstacle course. Madara walked over to the gate as Midnight instructed them to. He waited for the signal to go. Madara POV. I heard the sound of Midnight's voice and I ran into the tunnel. I had amassed a large amount of my chakra into my legs and feet to allow me to move much faster. I ran through the tunnel and escaped just in time. As Shoto froze the whole thing. I laughed as I looked back at the trapped students. I noticed that my group had made it out. Kakin was mad because he wasn't allowed to use his clay because it was technically a support item. Creak. I whipped my head around and saw robots. 1, 2, 3 and 0-pointers were all lined up. There were 20 0-pointers. I ignored everything other than them. Madara, Susanoo. I activated my humanoid Susanoo and started to cut down the 0-pointers. I realized that I might be wasting my time, as Shoto and Bakugo just passed me. I jumped over the 0-pointers and landed near the rope pitfall. I deactivated Susanoo and ran across the tightrope with ease. I had managed to catch up to Shoto. We were both flying across the minefield. I was almost across when a pillar of wood flew past with Hashirama on it. He managed to get first. I smiled as I crossed in second, with Shoto and Kakin in third and fourth. Third-person POV. Midnight started to explain the points after the 42nd student passed the finish line. Midnight. And the person in first place will have 1,000,000 points. Everyone come and grab your headbands. Madara. 1. Hashirama. Million? The rest of the students looked at Hashirama with greed. Madara looked at him with mock pity before they both started laughing. Midnight. And the next round will be a forest battle in teams of 2. If your team loses all of their headbands, they are eliminated. Madara and Hashirama. You're joking. A forest battle? Midnight. Now, go pick your teams. Madara. Well, we just got the easiest match of our lives. Hashirama. Madara? Madara. Yes, I will join your team. Hashirama was shocked by the immediate response, but he soon grinned, realizing what was going on. Hashirama. Oh, I see. You sly dog, Madara. Madara. Ha 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 ha. Yes, 2 of the strongest wood-style users, in a forest, with barely any light. This will definitely go well for the other teams. Hashirama nodded while Midnight shivered. Midnight. That's why Nizu recommended this as the second round. Madara. Oh, I need to get him the finest tea that this world has ever seen as thanks. Everyone shivered as they heard the cackling of the principal of UA. Now the teams have been set up. Madara grinned at their makeup. Momo and Itsuka, Kakin and Kiribro, Shoto and Tsu. They all had an advantage as Madara had taught them all the abilities of shinobi. They would be hard to detect, and they were also able to climb the trees with their chakra. Midnight. Well, I have no idea how Nizu expected to grow a forest in 3 seconds. Madara. Allow us. Hashirama and Madara. Deep forest emergence. The forest grew at a rapid speed. Soon, the whole floor area was covered by a canopy. A bunch of holographic screens appeared for the crowd to watch. A bunch of microscopic drones made by Power Loader would follow each team. All 21 teams were ready and Midnight signaled the start with a crack of her whip. The arena is much larger than normal as it makes it easier to incorporate this forest and all of the students in this type of FFA. Madara and Hashirama immediately moved as far away from their start position as possible. Madara pulled some earpieces out from his quirk. He put one on and gave the other to Hashirama. Madara, let's do this. The two jumped away and went opposite directions. They both wore the headbands around their necks, facing inwards so no one would know who has which. Madara flew through the trees, barely making any noise. He saw a team up ahead and slowed his approach. As he slowly approached the team, he heard a voice that made him smile. Eri, go, Uncle Madara and Uncle Hashirama. Somewhere on the other side of the forest, Hashirama also smiled at the voice as he too slowly approached the team. Momo was standing with Denki, looking around the silent forest. The unconscious bodies of Juzo Hananuki and Yui Kodai landed at their feet. They looked around, but all there was to see was more trees. They heard an echoing voice that seemed to come from all directions. Madara, would style, would clones. The surface of the trees warped as multiple clones of Madara formed out of them. The clones were considerably weaker as Madara was just trying to test the strength of his classmates. They managed to beat the clones, and they only got a few scratches from it. Clap, clap, clap. Madara walked out from the shadows while slowly clapping. Madara, excellent work. Nito ran straight at him and set off an explosion in his face. The hand went straight through his head and Nito fell through Madara's body, expecting to hit a solid surface. Denki, what are you doing, Momo? He's over there. Momo looked and saw that there was indeed another Madara leaning against a tree. Madara, too bad that my clones can also afflict optical genjutsu. Denki shot lightning at Madara. It went straight through him. Madara appeared behind Denki and punched him. Madara dodged an explosion from Nito and knocked him out with one punch as well. Madara looked at their headbands. He shrugged and took them. He sensed two presences rapidly approaching his position. He switched to Rinnegan and stood, awaiting their arrival. A piece of paper flew past him. He turned around as a bunch more paper flew to a position behind him. The paper combined and formed Momo. Itsuka soon landed next to her. Hashirama. Well, it seems that he taught you the paper style. What about you, Itsuka? Itsuka, that's a secret. Madara looked at the two who had approached him. Tsu and Shoto were standing in front of him. Madara grinned at the two as he cracked his knuckles. Madara, let's have some fun. Shoto, secret technique. Last time, a piece of paper flew past him. He turned around as a bunch more paper flew to a position behind him. The paper combined and formed Momo. Itsuka soon landed next to her. Hashirama. Well, it seems that he taught you the paper style. What about you, Itsuka? Itsuka, that's a secret. Madara looked at the two who had approached him. Tsu and Shoto were standing in front of him. Madara grinned at the two as he cracked his knuckles. Madara, let's have some fun. Shoto, secret technique. Now, Shoto, secret technique, demonic mirroring ice crystals. Madara looked around at the mirrors and smiled. He had mastered it after all. Shoto walked into a mirror and was projected onto all of them. Madara was about to attack when his cheek started to bleed. Madara, his speed. It's faster than I thought. Madara, such a shame. I didn't think I would have to use this so soon again. Madara closed his eyes and spread his hands out. Madara, Shinra Tensei Almighty Push. All of the mirrors cracked under the force of Madara's strike. Shoto flew out of the mirror and was caught by Tsu. Madara changed his eyes back to his Sharingan and stood there, waiting. The crowd was silent with anticipation. Shoto, look at his feet. Do not stare into his eyes. He will hit you with a genjutsu. Madara. Damn. Shoto closed his right eye and stared at Madara. Madara. So, it seems like Bakugo also taught you his genjutsu resistance technique. This is a pain, but I still have more. Madara closed his eyes and reopened them, revealing a different-looking Mangekyo Sharingan. Flashback. Madara awoke in a realm of blackness. He looked around and saw a campfire. He walked over to it and sat down. He heard the footsteps of others walk up to him. He turned around and saw 3 Uchiha members walk up to him. These 3 were some of the few other Uchiha who had obtained Mangekyo. Sasuke, Itachi, and Obito. Madara. Well, to what do I owe the pleasure? Itachi, you're going to be reborn soon. Madara looked at him with mock shock. Madara? And you're here to send me back? Sasuke, no. We're here with a gift. Obito, you will gain our Mangekyo Sharingan. Madara nodded and smiled. Madara, perfect. In flashback, Shoto stood prepared. He knew that this would be different, but how? Madara, I got this one from a friend. Tsukuyami. Shoto felt as if he was being pulled into Madara's eyes. Shoto felt himself fall into a pool of water in which he slowly sank down. He heard a noise and looked up to see the moon falling to him. He screamed out in pain when it came into contact with him. Shoto suddenly fell after Madara had said that word. He was breathing heavily. He still had his right eye closed. Tsu, what happened? Shoto, he has a much stronger genjutsu than I thought. Madara walked up to them. He pointed his finger to them. Madara, you are a lot stronger than I thought. Tsu swung her tongue at him, trying to hit him. It just went straight through him. Shoto, what are you aiming at, Tsu? He's still over there. Shoto was right. Madara hadn't moved. She hadn't looked in his eyes at all. So how did he hit her with a genjutsu? Madara pointed at Tsu again, and all of a sudden, she was trapped in a tree. Madara, my eyes aren't the only thing that can activate a genjutsu. Shoto looked at Tsu and saw her trapped by nothing. Just as Madara started to do the hand signs for one of his jutsus, a loud siren was heard, signaling the end of the match. Madara pressed his earpiece and contacted Hashirama. Madara, 3, 2, 1. Great forest regression. The forest started to grow in reverse. The crowd was in awe. Madara freed Tsu from the genjutsu and walked to Hashirama. Hashirama, Madara. Madara? Yes? Hashirama grabbed Madara by the shoulders and started to shake him. Hashirama, why did you teach Itsuka Wind style? Madara just shrugged before turning to face Midnight. Midnight, excellent work. Now, we will be moving on to the 1 versus 1 matches. They are as follows. Madara smiled and cracked his knuckles. This would be fun. Present Mike. We will have a 1-hour lunch break before the matches start. Madara walked to the canteen area in the stadium to grab some food. He saw a place that sold his 2 favorite foods, katsudon and inarizushi. He decided on katsudon today. He sat down and started to eat when he felt hands slide around his waist and a head was placed on his shoulder. He saw the beautiful eyes of Momo staring into his. The two started to lean into each other before jumping apart at the sound of an explosion. Bakugo. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt something? Madara had a grin on his face while he shook his head. If you looked close enough, you might be able to catch a hint of a blush marking his features. Momo, on the other hand, had a red face with steam coming out of her ears. Madara, you might have, but that should be saved for afterwards. Momo only nodded while Katsuki had a grin. Madara finished eating his katsudon just in time for Present Mike to call out the first round. Madara, that's my cue. He pat Momo's head before walking down to the waiting area. He sat in his chair waiting for the call. Present Mike, can I get a YEHHHH? Crowd, YEHHHH. Present Mike, all right. For our first match, we have the dark horse of Class 1C, Hitoshi Shinso, up against one of the powerhouses of Class 1A, the ghost of the OCH, Madara. The crowd cheered as the two walked out of their respective tunnels. Madara looked at the guy that he was up against and sighed. He was on the skinnier side, and he had bags under his eyes that were almost as prominent as Aizawa's. Midnight. Are both fighters ready? Madara and Shinso both nodded. Midnight. Begin. Madara started to walk forwards. Shinso. You must have it so easy with that powerful quirk that you have. Madara almost responded when he sensed the power of Shinso's quirk. It was similar to a genjutsu, so he decided to humor Shinso. Madara, that's not my quirk. Madara's body became stiff as he fell under the power of Shinso's words. Shinso, sorry, but I have to get into the hero course. Walk out of the ring. Madara's body turned around and started to move towards the edge. When his foot was about to leave the arena, Madara broke out of the quirk. Madara, Whoa, that was more powerful than I thought it would be. Shinso, what? How did you break out of my quirk? Madara, I've had practice. Madara started to walk to Shinso again. Shinso's eyes were darting around, trying to find an opening. He shouted and ran at Madara, throwing a sloppy right hook. Madara's eyes changed to Rinnegan. Shinso's fit connected with an invisible force. Up in the stands, Hashirama's eyes widened. Hashirama. No way. That's his Limbo clones. Momo. His what? Hashirama. Basically, using his Rinnegan, he projects a shadow of himself into Limbo, an invisible world that coexists with the physical world but that is ordinarily impossible to detect or perceive. Shoto. So, invisible and intangible clones. Hashirama. Yes, they are probably even stronger than Maiwood clones. Madara. Sorry, but this is the end, Shinso. Madara used a Limbo clone to punch Shinso out of the arena and into the stadium wall. Madara turned off his Rinnegan and returned to his usual Sharingan. He walked over to Shinso and looked at him. Madara, your quirk was called Villainous? Shinso groaned in pain, before nodding his head. Madara, the quirk doesn't define the person defines the quirk. Madara held out his hand, which Shinso took. Shinso, I will win next year. Madara, I expect you to. Want to train with me? Shinso shrugged. Shinso, sure, that could be a good idea. The two walked out of the area and back to their respective seats after exchanging contact details. Madara sat up on the arena. He looked up at the big screen and smiled when he saw the next match. Third-person POV. Hearing the call of her name, Momo walked out to greet the cheering crowd. She nodded towards her opponent, who was the stoic Shoto Todoroki. Momo was a little bit nervous, but she was confident in her abilities to beat Shoto. He nodded back. Present mic. On the left, we have the girl that can make it all. Momo Yaya. Momo looked around and waved as the crowd cheered for her. Present mic. And on the right, we have the cold, calm, and calculating Shoto Todoroki. Midnight looked at the two students before her and addressed them. Midnight, are the both of you ready? The two students nodded, not breaking eye contact. Midnight, all right, begin. Momo created a staff out of metal and started to spin it around. Shoto tapped his foot on the ground, freezing the floor. Momo jumped to avoid it. Shoto pointed his hand at Momo. Shoto, burn. Shoto's flames jumped out of nowhere, blazing a zigzag path across the sky. Momo's eyes widened, and she quickly created a barrier out of paper. The barrier barely held out against the potent flames. Flames that had been amplified by Shoto's own chakra control. There was one thing that Shoto brushed off. The one square of paper that was stuck to his cheek. All of a sudden, the paper on his cheek multiplied, soon covering his entire body other than his mouth. Momo's head appeared on Shoto's shoulder. Momo, do you yield? Shoto struggled against the paper, trying to use his quirks. They were of no use as the chakra that was running through the paper seemed to nullify his quirks. Shoto, I yield. The paper flew off of Shoto's body and reformed on the other side of the arena as Momo. Midnight, Momo wins. Momo smiled and waved at the crowd, but her eyes soon locked onto a pair of red eyes sitting in the Class 1 bleachers. Madara smiled at her and gave an approving nod, which made her blush. She walked off of the field and high-fived Itsuka as they passed each other. When Momo arrived at the 1 bleachers, she saw an empty seat beside Madara. She moved quickly to take the seat. Madara looked at her, before slowly reaching his arm around her. She jumped a little at the sudden touch, but didn't move away. Momo leaned into the embrace and rested her head on Madara's shoulder. Madara grinned, knowing what the next round would be, and how quick it might be. Itsuka looked up as the crowd cheered the two onto the field. She looked over at her opponent and locked eyes with him. Itsuka, were you allowed to use them? Kirishima shook his head. Midnight, are the two of you ready? They both nodded. Midnight, begin. Itsuka enlarged her hands with her quirk and punched at Kirishima. He managed to block with his quirk. He slid forwards on his knees and grabbed Itsuka by the waist. Itsuka made a noise when she felt Kirishima's arms around her waist. Before she knew it, she was on the ground in pain as Kirishima had suplexed her. Kirishima was walking around the downed Itsuka like a wolf staring at its prey. Itsuka slowly stood up. She was in a bit of pain from the suplex. Once she managed to get up, she had to immediately block as Kirishima rushed her, attacking her with a barrage of punches and kicks. Itsuka managed to get out of the range of Kirishima's attacks, which allowed her enough time for one attack. She put a large amount of chakra into her hands and slashed the air twice. Itsuka, wind style, duplex blades. The attack hit Kirishima's hardened body and pushed him out of the ring, giving Itsuka the win. She held her fist up in a victory pose before falling over, unconscious. So, this was the end of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.